We're talking Oklahoma State Cowboys football on the Ourlads Football YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg DePalma, and joining me, of course, to talk Oklahoma State Cowboys football from the Oklahoman. That's just oklahoman.com. And that is Scott Wright. How's it going, Scott?
Hey, Greg, I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. This is a great time of year, right?
Right?
We're all excited.
Exactly.
This is what we all spend our offseason gearing up towards. We still have a few weeks to go before the season begins. Oklahoma State, I'm telling you, I didn't even realize this, and most fans that don't really follow FCS football probably have been I don't think they have any idea just how tough their Oklahoma State's opening game is. Taking on this is the back-to-back champion FCS South Dakota program. We're talking
29 straight wins. They got a 29-game winning streak they're bringing to Stillwater here at the end of the month. Back 5-6 years ago when they put this game on the schedule, it did not look like this. This program has obviously really taken off. I think I went and looked it up. I think South Dakota State had like back-to-back 8-win seasons right before they put this game under contract. So
wow.
Yeah, it was not at all this type of game, but obviously they are a very confident program and going to come to Stillwater ready to win a football game.
Yeah, that's going to be great. This is what the fans want to see. And you know what? Now at the playoff, where you're not going to have to worry so much about one loss that might happen in September in the non-conference schedule, there's still a chance. Matter of fact, I think there'll be I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple 2-loss teams that are in the playoff this year. So
yeah, absolutely.
Not sure. Again, they'd probably get if you're Alabama, Georgia, you can have 2 losses. But if you're Oklahoma State, 2 losses, that may not do it. But still, at least we have a 12-team playoff. We're all excited about that. Okay, so matter of fact, that the beginning of the schedule is really tough. Yeah. Forget about just South Dakota State because SEC in week 2 against Arkansas. And then in between Tulsa, which is a regional deal, and it's on the road. I'm sure they're going to be really up for that one in Tulsa, Utah, and Kansas State. I mean, that's a very tough September schedule.
Yeah, it really is. And that non-conference schedule gets them a taste of just about everything. You get a really good team and program with South Dakota State. Then you get SEC athletes. Arkansas, I think they were picked like 14th in the SEC, so they're not a top tier SEC team, but they're going to have SEC athletes. They're going to be physical. They're going to be big and fast. So that gives you a taste of that. And Tulsa, you get to go on the road and play an up and coming program that Kevin Wilson's in his 2nd season up there and got that program going in the right direction. So, but get you a taste of going on the road before you have to go do it 2 weeks later at Kansas State. So, but yeah, and then jumping straight into the Big 12 with, like you said, Utah and then at Kansas State. That's going to be 2 of the most important games on this schedule for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, those are probably 2 of the top teams in the Big 12. So interesting enough, I think after September, the schedule actually compared to September, the schedule's not bad.
Yeah, no, it gets, it's hard to call it easy because I think this is going to be a really competitive league, but yeah, I mean, you go look at just about every prediction for the Big 12 and Utah and Kansas State are top 2 or 3. And yeah, then you can kind of, you get to ease off a little bit with some of the middle of the pack teams. West Virginia, not exactly a pushover. Garrett Green's been really good. So, that's going to be another tough one coming back to Stillwater. And, they've got a trip to TCU late in the year. That's a place they haven't played well lately. And you don't know what to expect from TCU. It's a team that was playing in the title game 2 years ago. So
you don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. 4 of the last 6 on the road to end the season. 3 out of 4 stretch from the BYU to the TCU road game. So yeah, this is a tough schedule but you know what, if it looks like it and it ends up a tough schedule, then a 2-loss Oklahoma State team, as long as they win the Big 12, it's not going to really matter anyway, because they'll end up in the playoffs. So, but yeah, how does it feel for those Oklahoma State fans? I know they were really happy to beat Oklahoma last year in that last, I mean, I don't know how much longer it's going to take to hook up, maybe a while. But that rivalry, win over Oklahoma was huge. And now you take a look at the fact that Texas is also out. So how are the fans feeling about that not just because Oklahoma is a rival, but because they're a very good program, and you're taking two very good programs out of the conference.
Yeah, it's exciting because it broadens the places the fan base can go. There's a trip back to Colorado, which obviously was a Big 12 team for a long time and a fun place to travel to. OSU goes to BYU this year. They've been to Arizona State, but they'll have Arizona, Utah. So that's exciting. Got different teams coming in, but you look at the situation Oklahoma State is in. They won 2 of the last 3 Bedlams. They went to the Big 12 title game 2 of the last 3 years in the conference with OU. They feel like they've got the momentum going now, that if they can continue this, they can be one of the the flagship programs of the Big 12. So they feel like they're in a really good situation. The fan base is very excited. They've sold out all their season tickets. They're selling out games left and right now, and it's a really exciting time for Cowboy fans.
Yeah, Mike Gundy's all of a sudden he's like the dean of the Big 12 now.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird because he was getting to be that a little bit anyway, just because he's been there so long.
Yeah,
and people love to talk to him about topics other than football because he's going to have really interesting and maybe crazy takes on stuff. But he's always thoughtful in what he offers, even though he likes to do this thing where he sort of pretends he's like, oh, I haven't really thought about it that much. Then he'll give you a 5-minute answer on all the thoughts that he has on that topic you just asked him about. But he is, I think technically Kyle Whittingham was hired like 3 weeks earlier than Mike Gundy, so he's barely a little longer tenured. But
he's new to the conference though, so
right, exactly. He's the newcomer in here. So Mike Gundy is definitely the established face of this league right now.
Well, that will be a nice little sidebar there, though, when they host Utah. Those 2 20-year head coaches. Very rare to see that nowadays in college football. So to have them match up is pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about the team. Lots of returning starters. You like to see that, especially now in the day and age of transfers. And, of course, you're going to lose some key guys after this season, a couple of staples. I'm assuming Oliver and Gordon will be gone by the end of this year. Are they out of eligibility?
No. Ollie Gordon actually is a true junior. He's just in his third year. Yeah, he is literally still only 20 years old, which is crazy. But yeah, if he has another year like he had, you assume that he's going to be gone. It's going to be hard for him to get his NFL stock any higher as a running back. He kind of is what he is if he has another good year. Colin Oliver could come back for a super senior year if he wanted to. I don't really expect that with him either. I kind of think this is his last go round, and he's a guy that I think is really going to show his NFL potential even more this year. They had him really focused at defensive end the first 2 years, then really focused at linebacker last year, and now he's going to get to be kind of the true hybrid and do both. And I think that's where his NFL future is because of, he's not the biggest guy as far as being an NFL defensive end, but he does have the speed to be off the line, be a stand-up guy, those types of things. So I think that's probably going to really help him this year in terms of developing him for the next year. And you add on to that, Alan Bowman is a 7th-year senior, so he's gone. We got a lot of defensive players that have come back this year as super seniors, offensive linemen. The whole offensive line is almost entirely super seniors. So a lot of guys that are going to be gone off of this team next year.
It's interesting because we had this conversation last year, and I remember the team was coming off pretty much a 500 type season the year before. And so there wasn't a whole lot of excitement coming into last year. But after we spoke, I remember going to myself, hey, maybe this isn't going to be such a bad season after all for the Cowboys. So you got me really excited about that. And it worked out. They actually, with the 10-win season and all that. So that's why I love having these conversations, because you just never know. Especially with the programs that are not considered, whether or not you want to call them blue bloods or, they're just the major programs that everybody always talks about. This is sometimes it's good to be in that role, though, because you kind of under the radar. Nobody talks about you. And that's the way maybe it works out. And I'm sure Oklahoma State and their fans are used to that. Let's go ahead and pop up the Ourlads depth chart. This is what we have, and I'm sure this is changing. It's very hard to follow depth charts in college football, that's for sure. So we do our best.
Especially during the preseason. Yeah, exactly. You guys
yes. The one I want to start off with, though, is that linebacker core here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because Oliver, again, whether you want to call him a true linebacker or not, whatever, he is. I mean, that's what he's penciled in now. Like you said, he's going to play some there. So you've got three guys, Oliver, Daniels, and Martin. I mean, these are all pro prospects. I mean, this is got to be the one of the best linebacker cores that the Cowboys have had in a while.
Yeah, as far as the entire group, it really is. They had a couple years ago, when they were in a 4-2-5, only had two linebackers. They had Malcolm Rodriguez and Devin Harper, who both went and spent some time in the NFL. But these are big time guys. Those two were kind of fringe NFL prospects, and I think when you put this group of guys together, you're going to see guys playing in the league for a while. The move of Kendall Daniels, from safety to linebacker, it's sort of he's like Colin Oliver. It's sort of a hybrid situation. He's still going to line up at safety some, and then kind of creep down toward the box a little bit. So, but the dude is 6'4", 235, and I mean, he looks like a linebacker. He needs to be playing linebacker. So they're figuring out ways to get him there. But yeah, Nick Martin was kind of the big surprise of last year's team. Nobody really saw that coming. And then he just kind of exploded onto the scene and really looks the part. He's not, he's only 6 feet tall, and that's one of the reasons that people doubt him a little bit, but he's incredibly productive and incredibly fast. His speed is what's going to keep him playing this game beyond college. So you look at that linebacker group, and that is definitely the strength and if you're an opponent, the scariest part of this defense.
Yeah, because you mentioned the size there. Because here's a guy, Nick Martin, who isn't isn't moving from safety yet. He's more size-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, in the NFL, he'll be a safety.
Right.
But like you said, he led the team with 140 tackles last year, coming from nowhere, as you said, just broke out. 16 tackles for loss, also led, and tied with Oliver in sacks with 6. That's a monster season for a kid that's only, I believe, 6 foot 215.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's bulked up since then.
Okay.
I think they need to update their weight on him, because I interviewed him just the other day, and he looks thick. So I would be surprised if 215 is still accurate. But yeah, he is, like I said, his speed. He's got the size to not be overwhelmed in the box, muscle wise. Even though like I said, the height is something that makes people doubt him a little bit, but he can hold his own.
Nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes and makes plays. He can chase people down and is really, really solid in terms of understanding schemes and anticipating plays. And a lot of his sacks, they weren't just like all out blitzes. They were well timed, and plays where he had to make the right decision to get in there and get the sack. So yeah, big time player that they're really excited about to see what the next level is for him.
You think Oliver is going to end up, especially at the next level, NFL teams, they see a kid like Oliver, and I'm assuming chances are they're going to say, well, I know he can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but the guy can rush the passer.
Right, exactly.
We're going to make sure that's what he's going to do at the next level.
Yes, exactly. That's what Oklahoma State realized as they got about halfway into last season when they had moved him. They went from the 4-2-5 to the 3-3-5, and they thought he was a perfect fit as an outside linebacker, and he's a really good outside linebacker. But he's their best pass rusher, and it's not even close. He has to be rushing the passer as much as possible, and so that's why they've sort of molded this defense a little bit to fit his skill set. And get him up on the line, coming off the edge a little more frequently. That's a hugely important piece of the changes they're making with this defense to just to fit the talent a little bit better and make them a little bit more impactful. Pass rush was a real sore subject for them last year, and they've got to get that better, and they know that he's the guy that can do it.
Yeah, talk about that secondary. Because the linebacking crew obviously is the headliner of the defense. Yeah. As far as the secondary, a couple of guys that I don't know, maybe stand out to me. I mean, this Epps kid, I don't know if he's going to start or not, or what his situation is going to be, but very productive for a freshman. So was he a redshirt freshman last year when he started to make an impact?
Exactly. Yeah. So Lyric Rawls got hurt last year towards ACL. Epps comes in and nobody really knew what to expect from a redshirt freshman. And, he started making plays right away. He had some inconsistencies like you would expect from a freshman, but he really settled in and started producing right away. And that was very important. Now, the trick is that, they've got Lyric Rawls back as well. And so it's going to be a battle, not just for that job, but they're looking at those two guys at a couple of different spots to try to figure out what their best three safeties are going to be. Because, like I said, they're going to be moving Kendall Daniels around some. They need to do something with that spot as well. Trey Rucker is probably the one guy in that safety group that is locked in.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's very physical and has good speed and good anticipation. Got burned a couple of times last year, and I think that he's kind of learned, some of the intricacies of this defense. They're going to help him this year. So you look at that group, and then Kobe Hilton, the transfer from UTEP, has come in and is really pushing as well. Going to try to get himself some snaps. So even though they've got a lot of familiar faces and guys that have started games in that safety group, it's really maybe one of the most interesting position battles going on this preseason, because they've got so many guys trying to fight in there. They feel really pretty comfortable with what they've got at corner. Corey Black returning for his super senior year was really important. There was a lot of people that thought he might either jump to the NFL or go into the portal. So to have him stick around, he's their most consistent corner. And then on the other side, Cam Smith and Cale Smith are probably going to rotate some, but Cam Smith has been a guy that's been a major player the last 2 years. Cale Smith really stepped up last year, and they like what both of those guys can do over there. And Kenneth Harris is another guy, came in last year as a transfer, redshirted, and has really found his footing as a corner and ready to contribute as well. So they like the depth and the talent that they've got in the secondary.
Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just making sure that I'm following everything you're saying here and jotting down my notes. And because there's a lot to take in, and I love it. Who has the biggest upside in the secondary? Because you said Black is the most consistent corner. Does he have the most upside?
I think so. I think you go look at the numbers, and people really tried to avoid throwing to his side of the field last year. They tried to pick on the guys on the other side, especially last year when they were a little bit younger and less experienced. We'll see how it goes this year now that those guys are a little more seasoned. But he has the ability. He's got the size, I think, to draw some NFL looks and get a shot at being drafted, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, somewhere in there next year. So he's a guy that I really like back there. And Cameron Epps, to come back around to him, is a guy that if he can put all the pieces together, I think really has a shot at maybe being the most consistent guy in this group, a real playmaker who I think can kind of hold things together in that secondary.
Okay, and then safety Rucker, is he the guy that is
Rucker,
sort of like
Rucker is a little bit. Yeah, he needs to keep things in front of him. He had a couple of times where he let guys get behind him, and as a free safety, you just can't let that happen. But if he can correct those mistakes, his physicality and combined with just his knowledge, I think he's got a chance to really stand out in that group.
All right, now let's move on to the defensive front. So right there, there's one guy here, Zigbo, Obi Zigbo. Mm-hmm. So is that's the transfer, the Division II transfer?
Yes, exactly. And in talking to people that have been working out with him since January, the guy's first step is really going to be pretty incredible. So that's going to be where he really comes in and makes an impact. I think they've got some other guys that they can mix in to go with a little bit bigger package there. Zigbo is about a 250-pound guy. Not a huge defensive end, but they can move Xavier Ross in there, and he's a guy that can play inside and outside, do some different things with. So, but Zigbo's step off the ball is really going to be impactful at the Big 12, even though, he's coming from D2 and expectations probably aren't great for him, but they really feel like he's going to be able to make that jump. And uh, obviously Brian Nardo came from Gannon and coached Obi for a year before he came to OSU. But this guy had other offers. This wasn't just a situation where Brian Nardo went back and got a guy that had played for him. This guy had Baylor and some D1 programs in Florida and some other schools that were looking at him. So he's a guy that is going to be able to I think survive at the Power 5 level, Power 4 level, I guess now. So but a lot of.
Otherwise, he have one more year of eligibility.
This is it. This is it for him. He is a super senior this year. So,
okay.
But yeah, so they like what he can do. They like the versatility of this line. There's times they can run Colin Clay and Justin Kirkland both out there and make it a little bit bigger line. They really like what both of those guys can do. Walter Scheid is another super senior 6th year guy who has really grown and come into his own the last couple of years. They thought he might be done with football after last season. He decided to stick around for one more year. It's funny because he had an older brother, and they never played together, but they butted up to each other. So older brother graduated. He came in as a freshman the next year. So there's going to be 11 straight years with a Walter Scheid on the team. So pretty crazy with a 5th year senior and now a 6th year senior to follow him. So
it's a long time.
It is. And then a couple of young guys on here that are really standing out early in camp: Deshaun Brown and Jaleel Johnson. Both. Johnson is about 265. Brown's a little bit bigger, probably in the 280 range. And so they both have different skill sets and can blend in and do some different things. So and Aiden Kelly is another one that they feel like is going to help. In the middle. And another guy that really isn't getting a lot of pub right now is a guy named Iman Oates, who was a junior college transfer last year and got injured, had to redshirt, but they've been really excited about what they've seen from him so far in camp.
Okay. And that's the JC guy. Okay.
Yes.
Oates. Got it. All right. And Johnson, out of all, let's talk about those younger kids. Which one do you think is the one to watch? Who do you think is going to be the next wave comes? Who's going to be leading this group? Maybe even as early as next year.
Honestly, I think you look at Johnson and Brown, and right now they're at the same spot. But I think down the line you can see them as the bookends of a really good defensive line at Oklahoma State, because they're really excited about what they can do. Like I said, they've got different skill sets, so they can you bring one from one side, one from the other, and you can have pretty impactful players there. So I think they really like what they've got in those two guys. Yeah,
this Walderscheid kid, man, he's 6'7". Is he really 6'7"?
Yeah. He is. Wow. He's legit 6'7" and up to about 285. Now he was only like 230 or so when he came out of high school. He's really bulked up. So just a really solid guy that not really flashy, but just gets the job done.
All right, let's move on over to the offensive side of the ball, and of course, so starting with Bowman. So yeah, this is crazy because as a Michigan fan, I remember seeing Bowman on the sidelines for a couple of years, basically just holding a clipboard. And it was like, well, what is he doing here? Why doesn't he go somewhere else where he could play? He's like the third guy. But hey, you know what? Sometimes it's about schooling. Sometimes it's about, you know what? I just want to go somewhere where I can be part of the winning. And he can keep his eligibility and all that kind of stuff. And that's what he did. He kept a couple more years. It's amazing. I don't think I don't know. I can't imagine we've ever seen an 8-year player. So he's got to be the most. He's got to be correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, maybe you've done the homework. Has there ever been, maybe even if we just stick with quarterbacks, has there ever been a quarterback in college football that is in their 7th year?
I don't know if there were any last year. There's a couple others this year. Cameron Rising out at Utah, in fact, he got an injury year, and so he's back for a 7th year. So I actually wrote about both of those guys at Big 12 Media Days. But
there's another matchup. There's another storyline for the Utah for the Utah game. There you go.
Exactly. It's
7th year quarterbacks, 20-year head coaches. I like it.
Yeah, but yeah. So Bowman is, he had a lot of injuries early in his career at Texas Tech. Didn't ever make it through a full season, and that enabled him to get the extra year back this year and come back, and it's really exciting. I know some Oklahoma State fans would like to see some of the young guys that they feel like have a different kind of talent, different kind of arm, those sorts of things. But with the talent that we'll get to when we talk about this offense, they need a guy that can just be solid and reliable and get the ball to the right places. And Bowman had 14 picks last year. That's a number that was a little bit high. If he can just get that number down, I mean, this guy, once they finally put him in position as the only quarterback, they did the 3 quarterback rotation the first 3 games of last year, which was it turned out to be a disaster. But from the 4th game on, once Bowen was the guy, he averaged over 290 passing yards a game. And you pair that with Ollie Gordon at running back, and you've got a really balanced and solid offense.
Yeah, so he did throw more interceptions than he'd like. So that's pretty much the deal. Because if you're going to throw 15 touchdown passes, whatever he threw, you better only throw like 3 or 4 interceptions at the most. 30 touchdowns, all right, we'll live with 14, whatever it was. But yeah, so do you think that's more what you'll see this year, is that we're okay with the 15, but you got to lower that interception number big time? Or are they going to be a little bit more acceptable, or just understanding that, this is an explosive offense. So if you're out there from day one, as opposed to, like you were saying, everybody was trying to, in and out of the lineup and all that stuff. If he starts week 1 all the way through the end of the season, then hopefully you'll see more like 25 or 30 touchdown passes.
The touchdown passes aren't that concerning as long as the offense is scoring. The thing was, Ollie Gordon stole a lot of touchdowns last year.
That's true.
He rushed for 20. So, that was a big part of Bowman's 15 touchdown total. That they're not worried about as long as the offense is scoring. If they're getting down there and settling for field goals in the red zone, then it becomes an issue. But they can live with the 15 touchdowns. The picks need to cut that in half at least. Like you said, that needs to be a lower number. And the interesting thing is you go look at Bowman's stats, and obviously he was in a different offense at Texas Tech and didn't throw the ball a ton at Michigan, but his interception numbers were much lower in terms of the frequency, when you compare it to the ratio of passes thrown. So if he can get back to his early career trends, you're going to see that interception number go down, and I think he'll be in good shape.
Who is there? Was there a definite number 2 quarterback?
No, right now that's a really important battle, and it might be one of those situations where Mike Gundy really never names a number 2 and just decides who he's going to play when the time comes. It's one of those things that's difficult. You want to make sure you've got everybody around next spring when you've got a quarterback competition for an open job. You don't want people getting discouraged. So I think he's gonna try to get both of those guys in some games. They being Garrett Rangel and Zane Flores, redshirt sophomore, redshirt freshman. That both are have some excitement around them in terms of what they've done. Rangel has played a few games. He's played, I think, about 7 games in his career now. Played in 4 as a freshman while redshirting, and then was part of the quarterback rotation last year. So he's got an experience edge where Flores has maybe the size and natural talent edge. He's 6'4", 205, big arm, and seems to really be finding his footing as a college quarterback, at least on the practice field. So we'll see what exactly his future holds. But they're very excited about both of those guys and what the future holds for him.
And Smith, was he actually the program's top recruit overall last year?
He was the best recruit in the class last year. Came in January, which was admirable because he knew he was going to be 4th string behind all of these guys, but still wanted to show up early and get to work. So he's going to be a guy that can kind of pace himself rather than being forced into some early action. He can learn at his own speed. Get used to the speed of the game, all of those sorts of things. The same things that helped Zane Flores last year, because last year they had Gunnar Gundy in camp. Yep. And he was in that top 3, so Flores was able to kind of relax and learn at his own pace. So Smith will be able to do that this year and be ready to go. And if you've got Rangel, Flores, and Smith ready to go for a quarterback competition in the spring, it's going to be a fun one.
Is there an obvious, as far as the fans, that is someone that they are gravitating more towards because of maybe how they played in high school, what their rankings were, that kind of thing?
Yeah, Zane Flores is that guy. He's the
Okay.
one that lots of people are really excited about. I mean, like I said, there's even a faction of fans who would like to see him playing now. But it's that's kind of the nature of the beast. The
Yeah,
the
of
the
course.
backup quarterback's always the most popular guy. So,
Yep.
but yeah, he's the guy that has the measurables, has the high school stats, all of those things
Okay.
that get people really excited.
All right. So we get this news, and I don't know when this was. I think this was last month, about Gordon being arrested for drunk driving.
Hmm.
And it's like, you think about this first of all, and you're like, not that many kids get caught for drunk driving. If you take a look at the totality of how many players there are, it happens, but it doesn't happen a lot. And it's like, I'm sure as a fan, you're probably going, I mean, really? I mean, of all players to get caught for drunk drive, pretty much the face of the program right now on the football field. Come on, Ollie, what are you doing? So, but it's just a wake up call. And again, that's all you're hoping it is. It's just a
Right.
wake up call. He's a good kid. I think we've all could have been in a situation. I mean, I don't know how many of us back in our day stupid enough to get into a car when we shouldn't have. We've
Hmm.
all been there. He got caught. So is that pretty much the deal? Is that he's a good kid and he'll be okay?
That really seems to be the case, based on, our interactions with Ollie and the people that know him and the way that Mike Gundy has handled this. It really feels like this was one of those moments that, yes, it's going to be a wake up call for Ollie. But, he's not a guy that is a problem in the locker room or on campus. You go back and look at all the interviews he did at Big 12 Media Days when he didn't have to show up, but he stepped out there, faced the music, answered the questions, and those conference media day events are 6-7 hour thing, and he was answering the same questions for 7 hours, and by the end of the day, he was still showing the humility and
That's good.
and the awareness that he needed to be showing. He wasn't getting annoyed by answering the same question over and over again. He handled it all the exact right way. So you feel like the warning hit home for him that this was a mistake that he's got to avoid in the future, and he's handling it the right way.
And is he going to miss any games?
No, he will not miss. He will not miss any games. Which nationally, some people kind of balked at that, but actually, this is not the first time that Mike Gundy has handled one of these situations this way. He's had
Okay.
a couple other players with DUIs over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's been the same thing. There's been no suspension involved, and so it's becoming the norm for how Gundy handles these situations.
He appears to me, and I'm not one of the scouts at Ourlads, so let's just put it out there. I'm just an analyst, not a scout, but he appears to me to have it all. I mean, he's got size, he can catch, he's going to be an every down kid,
Hmm.
sort of like another Big 12 guy on my team, the Jets, Brees Hall, a guy that's going to probably just come into the league and he's just going to be able to do everything for you. And I know you're zeroing in yourself on covering one program, but
Hmm.
you've seen a lot of football, you've seen a lot of running backs. Would you agree with that? Do you think? And again, I'm not telling you to be an expert in the draft, but just knowing, because Brees wasn't even a first round draft pick, or I think he was early second, I believe, with the Jets.
That seems right.
So, do you look at him though as a first round draft pick? Is he maybe even a top 10 pick? Is he that good?
If he has another year like he had last year, and um, shows that he has polished even more, parts of his game, because like you said, he showed last year that he can do it all. He did. He caught the ball well. He passed blocked. He understands schemes, all of those sorts of things. So yes, he does. He absolutely has it all. I don't know. I don't know what the real difference is between an early second rounder and a first rounder, and maybe it just comes down to some needs. But I definitely think that he's definitely middle of the second round or better. And it all comes down to what he does this year in terms of the little details. So I think that he's a guy that, like a Breece Hall, is going to go and be able to be an impact guy from day one at the NFL level and play every down.
I guess his speed and all that. What does he time? That's definitely going to have a lot to do with it. It might actually be the last thing, but you never know. The NFL, the way that they're drafting running backs nowadays, it just shows you, for a talent like Breece Hall to go in the second round, you just don't value the position very much. It's very rare to get a guy, like Robinson from Texas a couple of years ago. They just don't get drafted very often in the top 10 unless they're just, wow, those types of guys. But I think Gordon could be, so we'll see. We'll see if he can win back-to-back Doak Walker Awards. That'll definitely be something that could open up even more eyes at the next level. Like you said, to have another final good season, even though it's only been how long? Actually, how long? This is again, like you said, this is his third year, correct? So chances are, though, he has a really strong year. He's going to be entering the NFL. Okay, so if he does enter the NFL, who's next in line? Did they have that guy on the roster right now?
They've got an interesting situation because they've got a couple of older transfers who they brought in this year, which was kind of surprising because you're coming in to be the backup. It wasn't like they had a starting job to sell to guys as transfers this year, but they brought in Trent Howland, another big guy, 6'3", 240, came in from Indiana, who they really like. They had brought in AJ Green from Arkansas, and he suffered an injury back in spring. Probably won't play at all this year, but he does have a redshirt year available, so he can come back and contend for the starting job next year. He's a little bit different. He's 5'10", 210 type of guy but he can do a little bit of everything as well. So another guy that they really like there for next year. And then Sesi Vailahi was a guy that was, he was a late addition to the recruiting class a year ago, but came in the 23 class and came in, and by the end of the year he was the number 2 guy. Now, it was mostly because of injuries, but he held his own and showed that he's capable of being that guy. So he's a guy that's a little bit smaller, a 5'9" ish type of guy, but has good speed, can get into space and do some things, and has really improved his speed a lot since he's been at Oklahoma State. So they like what he's got. And then the true freshman class has been really exciting so far in camp. They brought in 2 guys, Rodney Fields Jr., an Oklahoma City boy, who has really shown up early in camp. And then Jaden Allen Hendricks, another big guy, 6'2", 230, who they're pretty excited about and trying to get him ready to be a depth guy this year and then contend next year as well. So they've got some numbers to work with going forward next year. There's as of right now, it doesn't look like there's another Ollie Gordon in the mix, but definitely some talent to work with.
Okay. Then you take a look at the receivers. So this seems to be, again, a pretty good, strong unit. I'm not so sure there's a superstar there, but it just looks like they have some really solid talent all across the board as their top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing in this preseason camp is developing some depth behind them. If they get dealt some injuries, they get into some inexperience pretty quickly. But that front 3, they're really excited about. Brennan Presley has just been really solid his entire career. Became a real focal point in terms of trying to open up the offense last year. To whenever teams were trying to take Ollie away, he was a guy that they went to a lot. Had a couple of games with over 15 catches last year. So he's really important in the slot. Dejon Stribling, out of the whole group, might have the best NFL future. He's got the body, got the speed, got the hands. We'll see if he can put it all together. He was a guy they were really excited about last year, transferred in from Washington State, and then broke his wrist 4 games into the season. So they're glad to have him back. And then because of his injury, Rashad Owens was a guy that got a shot in the starting lineup and is a big-bodied outside receiver. I think he's 6'2" and about 230 right now. So a guy that can be physical and go make some plays on the outside. But he really excelled down the stretch last year, was the MVP of the bowl game, those sorts of things. So a guy that they're really excited about in terms of what he can do as well. So, but yeah, they've got to keep those guys healthy and develop some depth behind them.
So is there a guy that you feel like they feel the most comfortable with? Like if there is an injury, yeah, this guy seems to be the leader that probably takes those snaps.
Yeah, Talon Chetron is the guy who has, he's a guy that's played in some games. He got in as a true freshman, played some last year, just had injuries that sort of derailed him in both seasons. So if he can stay on the field, he's a guy that was a big time recruit, a 4-star guy coming out of Edmond Santa Fe High School a couple of years ago. So they really like what they've got in him and feel like he's the type of guy that could be a frontline guy. Just got to stay healthy and push his way in there. And on the inside, they brought in a couple of slot receivers from the transfer portal. Gavin Freeman from OU, which was a really important addition. Really good speed. Guy that can do a lot of stuff like return punts, things like that. If they give him a chance back there. And then another guy named Dawan Lofton came in from Virginia Tech. He's a senior. Played inside and outside at Virginia Tech, but looks more like an inside receiver at Oklahoma State. So a guy that can help out there. And then they have, you get into the group of last year's true freshmen who, because of some injuries, did get forced into being number 2 on the depth chart at a couple of different positions. Tyke Andrews, Cameron Hurd, Jalen Pope, some guys like that have come in. And then there's always Kel Cabanis, who is just a veteran. He was a walk-on out of Norman North High School and has just hung around and really been an important program guy. He's had some big catches in his career. There was a game at Boise State back in 2020 where they had a bunch of guys hurt and they end up throwing to him on a 3rd and long, and he makes this great diving catch that seals the game. And he's a really important piece of this program and can play any receiver position that they need him to. So he'll be a guy that can step in there and do some stuff. And they have a very intriguing junior college walk-on who I don't even know how they found this guy. He came from Snow College out in Utah. His name is Ayo Shotomide King, 6'4", 215, and all the reviews so far have been really good. He just arrived in June, and they've been really excited about what he's shown so far. He could be a guy that could step in maybe on that second line or at least provide some depth farther down the line.
So how do you pronounce his name? How do you spell his name?
His first name is Ayo, Ayo, and last name is Shotomide, Shotomide-King.
Wow. And what's his background again? His nationality?
I don't know his actual nationality. I've only learned a little bit about him. But like I said, he's originally from California as far as high school, and then played 2 years at Snow College, redshirted 1 year. So he comes in as a redshirt sophomore, but definitely has the body. We'll see if he has the other intangibles and tools that he needs to really compete here.
And he's just a walk-on.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. Yeah. What is this getting rid of the walk-on rule? What is this?
Yeah, that's a scary thing, particularly, and I know it's that way around the country. A lot of programs that really take advantage of this, but I look at a guy like Cale Cabanis, who we just talked about, who came in, made plays. He's on scholarship now. If you're having to, even with the bigger scholarship numbers, if they go up to 115 or whatever it is instead of 85, still those last 20, you're going to want to go get as many 3-star guys as you can. You're not going to necessarily be willing to take a chance on the local kid who is just a hard worker and may or may not pan out. Like you need your 115 to all pan out, or you're going to be going after guys that you think can pan out, not just bringing in guys to just help you on scout team and maybe they turn into something. Those guys are the ones that are really going to lose out on this if the walk-on programs go away.
Yeah, it's and I guess it's all part of the future of college football, but it's going to be something that hopefully they'll figure a way around it. Okay, now let's. By the way, tight ends. So Foster, is he number 1? I see is he the transfer from Ohio?
Yes, he is, and yes, I definitely think that he's gonna step right in. He's a guy that they run a lot of similar principles at Ohio as compared to Oklahoma State. So it was easy for him to pick up the offense. He fits in. He's a big guy at 6'6", 250-ish, and can block, can catch, can do whatever they need out of that spot. So yeah, I think he's going to be the guy that really slides in there, and that's the only open starting job in this offense. I mean, fullback technically is a new starter, but Jake Schultz has been around a while. So, but yeah, basically every other starting job is a returner. So that's one place where it'll be kind of a wait and see. But they really like what Foster has done, and and then they've got a couple of guys behind him that are just guys that have been in the program and understand the offense in Quentin Stewart and Tabry Shetron. And then there's been a lot of excitement about a true freshman. Now it's going to be tough for a true freshman to get on the field at tight end, but Josh Ford, a kid from right there in Stillwater, who they really like, has jumped in and been very physical. That's the thing that really jumped out. He arrived in spring, and they immediately took note of how physical a tight end he was. And that's the thing that's going to allow a freshman to be able to play in the trenches like that, when you can handle the physicality that comes up there.
All right. Now, I'm looking at this because you already mentioned it. I mean, look, senior. And the only two that are juniors are probably the two best players on the team, yeah. Gordon and Stribling, on the offense, I should say. Right. So, yeah. I mean, that's all five starters back, as well as all the seniors for the Cowboys. Has to be. I can't imagine there's a starting offensive line in college football that's more experienced in this.
No, there can't be. I mean, you look at the second line of guys. You got Jason Brooks, who played at Vandy, transferred in, has played both the last 2 years, tore his ACL, somewhat late in the season. So we'll see how quickly he's able to get back from that. But they feel like he's coming along just fine. Taylor Maturko has been a starter on this team, and he's a backup now. They brought in Isai Glass from Arizona State. He's started double-digit games at Arizona State and is going to be a number 2 guy on this team. And then they've got young guys that they're excited about behind in that group. But they've got 8 guys who have started a lot of football games at the power conference level. So really excited about the talent and the depth. I mean, this is the same offensive line that helped Ollie Gordon run for 1,700 yards, and they were really good against pass rush. So they're really a lot of promise in what they can do up there. And I think camp for them is a lot of just fine tuning and getting guys some work at a second spot in case there's an injury and they need to shuffle some things. Those type of things is what they're really able to focus on in this preseason, because these guys know the offense, they know their jobs.
And who would be the potential pro prospects in your mind to keep an eye on? Would it be Michaliski and Cooper?
Yeah, that's the two that I would look at. Mahalski at center does not. Mahalski, yes, it's a very, very uniquely pronounced name. There's a C in there that is silent, but yeah, he's he's not a massive guy, but really good center, really good leader, and understands the things you have to do to be a center, and he's very physical. He's taken on some of the big defensive tackles that you see across the Big 12 over the last few years. And he's been able to hold his own in there and do just fine. And then Dalton Cooper, is a guy that has the size, 6'6", 6'7", and long wingspan and moves really well, very agile. So I definitely think that he'll get some looks. The rest of those guys are guys that might get a shot in a camp somewhere. But when you're talking about guys that are going to be potentially draftable, those are the two that really stand out to me.
Okay, so give me a breakthrough player. We might have already talked about him, but not somebody that is not a household name right now, offensively and defensively, that could break through in 2024. Similarly, I guess to what we saw from what was it, the linebacker last year,
Nick Martin last year, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll start on offense. Dejon Stribling is not a guy that gets talked about a lot, but like I said, I think he's got the most pro potential. Brendan Presley is probably the most gifted receiver that they've got, but at 5'8", 175, it's going to be tough for him to get a real serious look unless he goes and lays down Xavier Worthy type numbers at the combine in the 40 or something. And I think he's fast. I don't know that he's that fast. We'll see. But Stribling is a guy that I think at the end of the year, people are going to be looking at very differently than they are right now. So that's the guy that I would point to on offense. And jumping over to the defensive side now, Kendall Daniels has been a really good player, but I think this move that they're making to get him a little bit more involved as a linebacker type of guy is going to skyrocket his potential in the future because of the way, listen, I was at a basketball game his senior year of high school, and I mean he was 175, 180, and he's 6'4". He looks skinny, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with this guy.
Yeah.
Now he's 240, and I mean he looks like an NFL linebacker. So I think that's a guy that is really going to emerge. And I'll go ahead and throw Cameron Epps in there too, because Daniels is a little bit of an easy pick because he has been a really good player. Epps, I think, is a guy that steps into the starting lineup in a more significant role this year, and really puts the inconsistencies of his freshman year behind him, and becomes a really solid player who can make some big game impacting plays.
All right. By the way, how's the special teams looking?
Really solid. Most guys are back from last year. The only change, actually, this is one change that I didn't think to mention to you before we started here. Sam Baybush has actually left the team. He got a really good job offer. He was a grad transfer, but decided that the workforce was ready for him. So he has actually left the program. Logan Ward is the main guy at place kicking and kickoffs now. Now he's a guy that's been around and done a lot for this program. He was 2 years ago, Tom Hutton tore his ACL as punter. Ward steps in, averaged 45 yards a punt the rest of the season. He's been the kickoff specialist, and was used occasionally as a place kicker last year when Alex Hale had some hiccups going on with his stroke. They also brought in a new guy, Drake Tabor, who was a very late addition, literally showed up, I think, the day that players reported for preseason camp. So we'll see if he can contend, but I think Ward will end up being the guy there. Other than that, everybody is back, and Brendan Presley, obviously in the return game, very dangerous guys, made a lot of big plays in that over his career.
Yeah, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on with anytime you have a new full-time kicker.
Yep.
You never know, but he's got a little experience, so that definitely should come into play. Okay, is there something that you think is going to be key for Oklahoma State to improve upon if they're going to take the next step, whether it's offensively or defensively? What are they missing from last year with all this experience? What's going to be what's going to be in their way from potentially reaching some really big goals, including, of course, winning the conference title?
I think the number one thing for this team is improving the pass rush. That had become a really strong point of this team. You go back and look at their numbers from 2021, even 2022, when the team wasn't quite as solid. But that was a really important part of what this team was able to do. And you go back and look at what they did last year, and it was a pretty significant drop off that you didn't kind of realize at the time how impactful it was. If they can get back going in a positive direction on pass rush, a lot of the big plays that they ended up allowing last year in the passing game were plays where a quarterback was allowed to scramble, and you're forcing your DBs to be in coverage for 5, 6, 7 seconds, and you get into trouble then at that point. So they can minimize those types of plays. I think it will help the secondary. I think that the scheme changes that they're making are going to help the run defense. So I think really it all comes down to improving the pass rush as the most important thing that can help take this defense to the next level.
All right, and we'll see also how this D2 kid does, because that's going to be a major part of that. Yes. If they're going to be able to figure that out. We talked about the schedule, and by the way, did they lose anybody to transfers? We talked about the transfers that have come in. Is there anybody they lost that's like, oh wow, that's a big loss?
Nothing hugely significant.
Okay.
They had most of their starters. DJ McKinney was a guy that they really liked at corner. He's going to Colorado now. But that was about the most impactful one that they really lost. A lot of guys were really excited about what this program had coming back and wanted to stick around.
All right, Scott. Awesome job as always. I appreciate it. I feel even better about Oklahoma State this year, that's for sure, with all this experience coming back. So I don't know if they're going to sneak up on anybody, though, but they might. I mean, I don't know who's picking them. I mean, is anybody, you've seen the magazines or some of the big analysts, have anybody picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12?
There's been a couple. A lot of them have them in that like 2, 3, 4 range, right up there, contending with Utah, Kansas State, Kansas, Arizona, a couple others getting a lot of respect and deservedly so. So I think that's that group of 5 right there is going to be really fun to watch. I think that is going to make for a very interesting battle in the Big 12. Yeah,
I'm really on this Kansas Arizona thing. I love it when you see schools like that have struggled for a while, especially Kansas. What a great story that is. Daniels, hopefully he's healthy. That was real tough to watch him because they think who knows what they could have done last year if he was healthy.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to, and of course Arizona. I know Fish is gone, but if they can keep these things going, they've got some really cool players that he recruited that are still there. They didn't all leave. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think Kansas, Arizona, those are 2 teams I'm really looking forward to seeing play this year.
Yep, so. Absolutely. It's going to be a fun year at the top of the Big 12.
Scott, do you have your own podcast that you do? How can anybody check out what you do for Oklahoma State football?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, all of my writing content is on oklahoman.com. My podcast is called The Cowboy Chronicles, which is available on all the typical services. So I've lost my partner this year, so I'm behind on getting back in the podcast game. People don't want to just sit and listen to me talk for an hour by myself. So trying to work that out. So I've got some guest hosts and things to get the podcast back on track. So. But it'll be back up very soon.
And that is both streaming like on Apple and all that as well as on YouTube?
Yes, both. Yeah, we have video. We've got a little brewery in Stillwater that lets us come and tape once a week. So
even better.
Yeah, exactly. Can't beat that.
No, who needs a co-host when you got the brewery?
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. I look forward to hopefully speaking to you, especially if this is a real successful season, speaking to you again during the season.
Absolutely, Greg. Anytime, my man.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share here on Ourlads. And we'll see you next time with our next interview is actually going to be on Monday. Tom Kakert. I'm going to talk some Iowa Hawkeyes football on Monday afternoon here on the Ourlads Football Channel, the Ourlads Football Network.